Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and Nitecore has really upped its EDC flashlight game with the EDC23. Now I did do a video on the EDC27, its big brother, but this 23 has got some of its own unique features and it's really worth taking a look at. What do we have here? We have got a 1500 milliamp battery inside a stainless steel PVD coated housing. USB-C rechargeable. It does have two interface buttons. Each of those has multiple features and something that is highly desirable these days, and that is an actual lockout, a physical button to shut the light down. But it also does have a semi-lock, which locks it out but gives you access to a feature. It does have a pocket clip with a lanyard port on it. Not fully deep carry here. That is something I like, is the deep carry, but given the size of this, not a big deal. It does have a strobe on it as well, and both the strobe and the turbo you can get to directly just by a partial and a full push, or a half push and a full push on this mode button. So if I push once, there we go to strobe. Now how much time do I have at that 2500 lumens? Well, it's going to give me a countdown. There it is. So it's going to show me, and then as soon as it hits the bottom, it throttles down to the high. The high is 1100 lumens, which a light like this really is nothing to sneeze at. Another thing is the color rendition on this thing from these two orange peel reflectors is just outstanding. High output LEDs. Now it does have an OLED, or organic light emitting diode display here, and that does give you some information. So if I turn it on, it tells me what it is. You might see blinking. I don't know if that's going to be in the video as well, but it shows you the runtime and the size. This is 32 hours at the 15 lumen setting. If I switch to a different lumen, like 65, I've got 9 hours. Another one, 200 lumens for 3 hours, and then the 1100 lumens for 1 hour and 11 minutes. So it gives me some actual useful information right there. On this side, what I can do, one single or half push gets me into the turbo, but then there's also a strobe by a complete push, and so you can access what I could access with this button, any of the brightness settings, which are obviously 1100 high, 200 medium, 65 low, and 15 super low or ultra low, which isn't all that ultra, but and of course the turbo. But the turbo is on this button. Then this one also goes straight into a strobe. So I have with access straight into it, I can either go to any of my settings here, including the ultra low, or I can go to turbo, or I can go to strobe instantly. Any of those three. But what's interesting about the strobe, and I'm not going to show it here because it's a strobe, but it does have what's called a random frequency, which means when I turn it on, you can actually see it. It cycles through various kinds of strobe effects in terms of duration and interval, or the frequency, and that can be further disoriented, or it's harder to get used to. So sometimes, depending on what you're using the strobe for, if it's to confuse or disorient, after a while it becomes predictable. Your mind can wrap around it, but if it keeps changing, that keeps messing with your mind. Hence the strobe random frequencies. But another thing is the output here is really handy for just checking on something. I'm not turning the light on, I'm just turning on this just to see what it's going to go to. I can also set this thing up to go into different settings, immediately. So I could set it up to go into whatever it was that I want and then stay there. So I could have it go instantly to the 1100 or instantly to 15. I can choose that. And once I've chosen that, then that's what it goes into. It does have a semi-lockout, so you can see that. So I can set this, if I'm activating it and sliding this, sliding the lockout switch, I can get to my turbo or my strobe, but everything else is locked out. So semi-lockout, kind of interesting, but I can shut off the lockout, the full lockout and the semi-lockout with just dropping that switch. Very simple design. The output of 2,500 lumens in candelas for range, that comes to just under 21,000 is what this thing kicks out. So it is not a reacher or it's not a flashlight for a huge distance. It's an EDC light, area light. If I turn this thing on, I'll go into my bright here. You can see it does have a hotspot, and you can see the shape. Whoops! You can see the shape of it right there. So that is a function of these bar lights, which are tremendously popular and outstanding. Still counting down because I had it on turbo. Simple design. It does have a more complex interface than one button, so in order to really use the features, you got to learn a couple of things, but it's a pretty short list, and then you kind of get it. So I can go into my different lighting modes with a click, and then a partial or a half click to cycle through, on, off. I can go to my turbo with a half click on the larger, flatter button, and then of course a strobe if I want to go into that by a full blast there. It would be nice maybe if I could turn off the strobe. I do hit that accidentally sometimes, but think about what you want an EDC light for. If it's just to find your car keys, you know, or to light up a door handle or something simple, you know, there are other lights. But if you want to get into the fully function EDC lights that have a bit of a user manual here, a manual of arms, in order to fully get all of the features, that's when the 27 and the 23 really come into play. It's easy to learn, and all you got to do is hit a button and something will happen. But it's nice to be able to go directly into the one that I want, which I just did, so now it's going to go on into that low setting. If I want to set it to something higher, I can. All I got to do is turn it on, cycle into the different ones, and then hold that off, and now it immediately goes into that setting. So a lot of fun with that. I highly recommend these lights. They are just well made, well executed, and then a fairly intuitive set of operations. So definitely something you need to learn, but once you have it, it makes sense. And that OLED screen, just being able to see what's going on there, that's kind of cool, especially runtime. And with that, Doc out.